Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Office Arcade. It's been a while since I've done one of these longer form factor videos, but I've gotten a bunch of really cool fighting game related things that I wanted to start doing some reviews on. So we're going to start here with the Snackbox Micro. This is one of those new all button arcade sticks. It's an alternative to the Hitbox. And I'm going to let you know why I think this is a better option than the Hitbox, but not necessarily the best option out there. So to start, you're probably wondering why this thing looks so cool. This is a skin from a company called Epic Pal Designs on Etsy. I'll include a link in the description to where you can find those guys, but they basically give you a template to print your own custom skins for the Snackbox Micro. And, you know, I love Evil Ryu and Akuma. So I've got a cool Evil Ryu versus Oni theme that I made here. So that was a lot of fun. But that said, this thing is really, really small. Well, you can kind of see just by, by virtue of my fingers that it's super duper thin. The buttons themselves are pretty small. And something people don't realize on the Hitbox is they actually use these smaller arcade buttons and the larger arcade button for jump. So even on the normal Hitbox, you're going to have buttons that are this size. And honestly, that's one of my biggest problems with the Hitbox and the Snackbox Micro is these small buttons for my hands, they just really don't cooperate. Like I'll, accidentally hit two buttons with one finger. My hands are kind of big and wide, so they feel very cramped on this. And I'll kind of talk to you guys about which stick I think is the best right now at the very end of this video. But that said, if you don't mind the smaller buttons or you have smaller hands, this thing's amazing. I did take this on a trip to Dublin where I didn't have much extra room as my primary stick, and it did an excellent job. If you're wondering how they made it so thin with good quality buttons, it's keyboard switches. So a lot of these all button sticks are using keyboard switches instead of arcade buttons. And that's another advantage I think this one has over the Hitbox. So the Hitbox actually uses Sanwa buttons. So the amount of press you have to do for activation is higher because it's a standard arcade button. And then there's also those kind of like consistency issues with like pressing the edge of the button and blah, 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 blah. Since these are keyboard switches, none of those issues. Super nice, very nice tactile feel. Absolutely love this thing. I believe they use MX Red switches. One problem with this design though for going small is instead of USB-C, for some of the older ones, they use micro USB, which we know is not a reliable connection. It breaks easily. So I got this, magnetic cable here, and I use the magnet to connect up as opposed to, pulling on that micro USB adapter. I think a lot of the new ones are being manufactured with USB-C now, so that won't be an issue. But just something to be aware of depending on where you buy from. One other thing too is you can see that the enclosure here is 3D printed. It's kind of hard to see it on the camera, but as I move it here, you should be able to see these kind of like vertical grooves appearing. You can kind of see it over here too when I block the light a little bit. So if you're looking for a super smooth flush edge, it is not that smooth. Like you can tell that they kind of molded it. They molded this black bezel here. So there are some imperfections, but again, for the small form factor, the quality of the build, it still seems worth it. One other complaint I have is that these little buttons here are unlabeled. So these are your start button, your home button, your touchpad button, all that stuff. But you kind of just have to like mash on them and figure out which one's which because of the lack of labeling. So again, a small little nitpick. And then the other issue with them is they're just these tiny nub buttons. So, in the heat of the moment or when I was nervous at a tournament, like I would keep hitting the wrong one and kind of, felt a little bit self-conscious about not catching the right button there because they're super duper tiny. But overall, if you're looking for a portable stick, I would argue that this is the best one on the market. I'm going to show you guys it in action shortly here. I'll show you some cool Hitbox shortcuts on it. But again, the form factor on this is amazing. It uses the same kind of layout as the Hitbox. And some other advantages over the Hitbox is it sits thinner on the table, so your wrists can rest like you're using a keyboard. Whereas with the Hitbox, it's elevated like a fight stick, but they didn't extend the base of the Hitbox. So your palm is actually resting on a sharp edge with the Hitbox. So of the 3 major all button sticks, the only one I don't own is a Hitbox, and it was mostly because it was super uncomfortable for me. It's still an amazing stick, and if it feels good on your hands, give it a shot. I'm not trying to poo-poo it here, but if you're looking for something, you know, a little bit cleaner, smaller, if you like the tactile feel of keyboard switches, and you like that Hitbox layout and form factor, this is a much smaller, much nicer version of the Hitbox, I would argue. So hopefully you guys can see that this has some really cool LEDs. Your left-right motion are going to be over here. Down is going to be in the middle, so it's not jump like a lot of people would think. And your jump button's actually your thumb over here. And these are your normal fight stick buttons, these 8 on the side. And these, the thing I noticed, if you watched my kind of early impression video, is that Tiger Knee and certain motions were really tough, but you know, now I'm able to do them super easy and consistent. So there was a practice factor to it. But what's really interesting is the Hitbox registers inputs so quickly that the reason I was having problems with the Tiger Knee input was actually I was just inputting it too fast. So I was doing this, and it actually skips the down forward part of your stick rotation, right? If you're imagining there's a stick rotation. So you actually have to do it a little bit slower, and then you get your fireball every time. And that's how you do an instant air DP as well. And as you're seeing, engaging your right hand for jump means that you're hitting 2 to 3 buttons with your left hand and 2 to 3 buttons with your right hand. So it's really nice because instead of having that stick kind of having too much responsibility with minimal responsibility for your right hand, you're now kind of more evenly dispersing the responsibility between the 2 hands. And DPs on this thing are crazy. You can walk forward and then tap down and punch, and you'll get a DP. That easy. And then you can also press forward, down, forward, and get a DP. So if you want an instant DP. Dashes are really nice on this thing too. You can walk forward and press back to back twice. So that'll count as a DP, or as a dash. But you can also just tap, you know, your normal dash, which is really nice. Half circle motions have that similar problem to Tiger Knee, that you have to just kind of learn to do them slower. But once you learn how to do them a little bit slower to make sure you're getting those angled inputs, they're super duper consistent. So, you know, harder links like this are a piece of cake, and you can see the 2 hit there. I mean, Tatsu and Fireball, again, super easy. It's just 2 buttons on the left, you know, and you get your Fireball, 2 buttons here. You get your Tatsu. The other really nice thing is links feel a lot easier on this thing. So here I'm engaging down, and I can just confirm into Tatsu like this very easily with 2 button presses. So all I did was hold down, and then when I was ready, I just tapped back and tapped kick, and it was a super easy confirm in terms of consistency compared to the joystick. So I'm really liking that. Again, because these are keyboard switches, the activation range on them is very sensitive, which I actually like, because again, for harder 1-frame links, I just feel like I'm a lot more consistent on it. The build quality again on this thing's amazing. Like, the buttons feel really nice. They have a nice tactile feel. They're actually concave, which isn't super popular, but at least for this like rubbery material that they're using and this layout, I feel like I'm able to catch the buttons more than with the convex Sanwa buttons on the Hitbox. And what am I forgetting here? So we did our DP, we did our Tatsu, we did our Fireball, we did our Instant Air Fireball or Tiger Knee. I mean, yeah, really, it's that easy to play a Shoto. So we're gonna switch sides to charge, because that's where things get really, really, really crazy and interesting. So with charge characters, it's really interesting because you saw with dash, like when you walk forward, you get that back priority, so you can dash by tapping back. You don't get forward priority though when holding back, right? Because back gets priority. So, you know, there's going to be no scissor kick, no fireball from Bison. So with back motions, you do have to let go of the back hold and tap forward and whatever, you know, attack you're trying to do at the same time. So you're going to see that I'm going to hit forward and punch in real quick succession here. And I got my fireball. And then here you're going to see me do the same for scissor kick. And I got my scissor kick. But where charge gets really freaking insane is you can do some amazing charge buffering. Like with back forward, charge buffering super easy. But with down buff up, it's unbelievable because up gets priority. So you see I'm holding down, but I'm jumping, right? So I'm not letting go of down. So what's really crazy about that is you can be crouch blocking without releasing crouch block. You can press jump and whatever, you know, punch or kick you need for your down up at the same time to get an instant down up charge. So there you go. There's my stomp. There's my double reversal, right? Like this is nuts. That is so freaking easy compared to having to like make sure that you move the joystick up, right? Especially in retro games. Like you can really feel the difference of this advantage in retro games. So I can really see the appeal of Hitbox for charge characters. Because again, buffering is a lot easier for buffering charge moves. And then when you're crouch blocking, it's really easy to very quickly react with a down up motion, right? So I'll react with my down up EX quite a lot to people jumping, which they find crazy, but it's really just me hitting 3 buttons at the exact same time as an instant reaction. So for charge characters, this thing is freaking amazing. And a lot of folks prefer stick for Shoto still, but having stuck with the all button input, it is so much easier to do Shoto inputs on this thing, even, you know, half circles, tiger knee, and some of the ones I was complaining about previously. So all button joysticks are going to be my choice of stick moving forward. I still think Victrix is the best fight stick you can buy in terms of classic stick and buttons. But if you're willing to learn all button, I'd say that is the preferred way to go for modern games. And I'd say that the Snackbox Micro is your best or second best option, depending on what you prefer in terms of button size and form factor of the stick itself. But this thing is amazing. I would argue it's one of the top 2 sticks out there right now. Again, this thing is super duper awesome. I'll include a link to where you can find the decal and to where you can actually buy the stick itself. It's usually pretty back ordered, but I absolutely love the buttons, love the switches. I used this thing at Combo Breaker and when I went to Dublin and was playing out there. And this thing is a absolute beast of a stick in a super tiny form factor. Again, for my bigger hands, there is one other alternative stick that I'll do another review for that I prefer nowadays a little bit to this one. But when I'm traveling and I don't have a lot of space in my bag, this is going to be my go-to stick.